This is the video that I was so excited to go out there and talk about, because this is the one where we're going to be going over pretty much the entire butterfly effect. You know, the butterfly flaps its wings and a tornado forms across the world. Yeah, this is that video. And the star of it all is Buddy Robinson. Now, who exactly is Buddy Robinson? Is he a player that you are supposed to know? Well, honestly, not really. The guy's 31 years old, he's a big dude, 6'6", 231, right-handed right-wing forward, and he does not have a contract for next season. He is currently a free agent. Throughout his career, he has made under $1 million each time after signing his ELC a decade ago, but Buddy Robinson has been up and down, mostly in the AHL. He's played a few NHL games here and there, split between the Ottawa Senators, the Calgary Flames, the Anaheim Ducks, but really, if you look at the numbers, the amount of games played this guy has had, Buddy Robinson, at 31 years old, has 542 AHL games and 62 NHL games. The guy is, for all intents and purposes, and with no disrespect whatsoever, not an NHL player. He's a call-up option. He's a depth option. He's a guy that is pretty alright in the AHL. He gets physical, he fights, he does his things. But when the team that he is on needs some NHL talent, they'll call him up, he'll play, it'll be a done deal, he'll get sent back down. And that's okay. Playing in the AHL for your entire career is no easy feat, especially compared to the common folk like me and you that don't have the talent to do this. Buddy Robinson is okay. And this season, he played for the Rockford Ice Hogs, getting 52 games played over there and 20 points. He also played with the regular Chicago Blackhawks. He had a 9-game sample over there. He had 1 goal and 3 total points. Now, the thing is, the 1 goal that Buddy Robinson scored this previous season was in the final game of the season for Chicago against Pittsburgh. This was the most important game of the year, arguably the most important goal of the year, and an event that changed the entire track record of hockey history to be. Take a look at the tweet made on the Chicago Blackhawks Twitter account. They tweeted out the goal. It was a nice goal. The puck was bounced out in front and Robinson was there to snipe it by Tristan Jarry. "Hey buddy," it says. And a few months after this tweet was posted, you had Rating VGK tweets say this: "This random goal by a literal nobody at the end of the season changed the course of NHL history." This tweet got 1 million views, and Rating VGK Tweets goes out there and replies saying why this Buddy Robinson goal was such a big deal. Things that happened as a result of this goal. Firstly, the Pittsburgh Penguins' 16-year playoff streak comes to an end. Secondly, the Panthers make the Cup final as the 8th seed for the first time since '96. 3. The biggest upset in playoffs history. 4. The LEAFS organization self-destructs. And 5. The Chicago Blackhawks get Connor Bedard. Now, how in the world did all of these things happen as a result of this goal by Buddy Robinson? Well, this goal gave the Chicago Blackhawks a 2-1 lead in the game. The final score of said game was 5-2, but this goal, with 10 minutes left to go in the third period, was ultimately the goal that started it all and allowed the Blackhawks to get on the board multiple times and seal their fate as the victors. Buddy Robinson went out there and did this in a way that eliminated the Pittsburgh Penguins from the postseason. Go over to the NHL standings and you see the Metro Division. You'll take a look at Pittsburgh and say, darn it, this team was 1 point behind the Florida Panthers. And had the Penguins actually won this game, let's say in regulation or overtime, they would have had more points. This was a must-win game for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and as a result, they lost in regulation. They didn't get the 2 points. They didn't get the 1 point to tie Florida. They wouldn't have won anyways because the tiebreaker would have been in Florida's favor. But the Penguins needed the opportunity, and they had the opportunity to win and put themselves in that final wild card. Guess what happens if Pittsburgh makes the final wildcard? Hey, they play off against Boston, and we don't get the Florida Panthers Cinderella run that we're getting as a result. The Panthers don't beat the Bruins in Game 7. We don't see the biggest choke in NHL history. The Bruins had the lead, big lead, 3-1 lead, and then they lost it. They lost in overtime. Carter Verhaeghe is the hero. We don't see the Panthers make the second round. We don't see Toronto implode on itself. We don't maybe not see Kyle Dubas and the entire drama with him go down. We don't see the Panthers sweep the Hurricanes. We don't see the Panthers make the Stanley Cup Finals. Had Pittsburgh just won this game against Chicago, the entire story would have involved them instead of Florida. Then you have yourselves the other implications as to how this affected the opposite team. Chicago got the final 2 points they needed to jump over in the NHL standings. Take a look at how everything went down. Chicago finished off the year as the 30th ranked team. They had the same amount of points as Columbus, but they had the better record, so Chicago got the tiebreaker. They were 30th, Columbus was 31st. Because of the way this was ordered, Chicago got Bedard. Bedard went to the 30th ranked overall team in the standings, not 31st or 32nd. If Chicago just lost this game against Pittsburgh, and they were ranked 32nd, let's just say, because they had 57 points coming into the Pittsburgh game, they had 59 after because they won, then if you assume that the lottery would have stayed exactly the same, Columbus would have ended up with Bedard instead. Chicago would have gotten second overall, and Anaheim would have dropped to third. This one goal sort of changed the entire course of hockey history, and it was scored by a guy that a lot of people aren't even familiar with. This is always going to be the thing that stands out to me, is because we had ourselves all these stories about, okay, there's a Patrick Kane goal at the end of the 2014-15 season that gave the Oilers McDavid. There's a game at the end of 07 that gave Chicago Patrick Kane. But now, in the year 2023, we are seeing exactly the same thing, scored by a guy that people don't really know too much about, scored in a play that happened 10 minutes left in the third period, and this changes hockey. This changes the fate of the Penguins. This changes the fate of the Florida Panthers, and by proxy, the Bruins, Hurricanes, and Toronto Maple Leafs. This changes the fate of the Blackhawks themselves. They win this game, boom, they get Connor Bedard. And the Penguins also look like they may be imploding themselves because of this idea too. You have Crosby going out there talking about how it's disappointing because he's never felt this before. He's never had this much free time earlier on in April and May. You have Kyle Dubas most likely going to Pittsburgh. He also got fired from Toronto. That happened because Florida made the second round, and Florida only had the opportunity to make the playoffs in the first place because Pittsburgh didn't win this game against Chicago, wherein it was a tie game with 10 minutes left in the third period. Like, the domino effect is crazy here. Buddy Robinson scores a goal, the Panthers are in the finals. And now, everything is all as a result of that. This is what Elliotte Friedman said. Friedman, post-game on the Panthers, says, if the Chicago Blackhawks don't beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, none of this happens. That game was crazy. Chicago winning meant that Hextall and Burke got fired, Florida gets into the playoffs and the finals, and Chicago gets Bedard. There are way too many things that happened as a result of this goal, but I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. What are your opinions about how this goal changed the course of hockey history? What are your thoughts on Buddy Robinson? What are your thoughts on the Penguins, the Blackhawks, the Panthers, the Leafs, the Hurricanes, the Boston Bruins, and, of course, Connor Bedard? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.